Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ohio State Prime Time on the Voice of College Football. Of course, we're not really prime time right now. We are noon here to watch the college football final rankings. Here to see where Ohio State lands and see if they got a favorable matchup. I already saw the line out is right now. The line is out for them in Tennessee. They, of course, Ohio State being the favorite right now. But yeah, man, it's really interested to see where everyone lands, where everyone ends up being who they have to play, where people have to travel. Of course, I personally have always been a fan of seeing or wanted to be a fan of seeing SEC schools and Southern schools come up to the north and to up to the northern Midwest. Not much of places like Missouri, but no, I'm really interested to see how they could fare in the winter. Of course, I think for all of us, we all know how different it is here in the Midwest when you're not too far off the Great Lakes, and yeah, you get that weather effect from the lake effect for the weather. It really can affect how the game is. It can affect how you're tackled. I remember when I used to play, man, getting tackled on a curl surface was not the greatest thing ever. I actually pretty much hated that part of the sport. But again, please like, share, subscribe here to the channel on the Voice of College Football Ohio State. My co-host Ryan Stano, he will not be here today, but he will be back with me tomorrow to cover the rankings and cover to see who Ohio State plays and give an early matchup preview of that. We will also once the rankings are shown, we will also or I will also be going and dropping the call in if anyone wants to call in and give their thoughts on the rankings on Ohio State and whoever their matchup is. So, what are you guys' early thoughts here? What do you think Ohio State would land? Now, in my logical brain, I think Ohio State belongs at the 5 spot. My reason for that is listen, the loss to the Wolverines is bad. I think there is no getting around that. It's a bad loss. But they're all you have the other side of that. You have the yin with the yang. Ohio State does have two top 10 wins. One of them I depending on where Penn State falls, I would assume out the top five. Yeah, so it will be a top five win. But they have two top 10 wins. Of course, their first loss being a 1 point loss at Oregon, which I mean, I don't think anybody would necessarily call that a bad loss, but it's a loss nonetheless. So I think that when you compare them to teams such as, let's say, I mean, let's bring a Penn State here. Now, I personally don't believe people should or teams should be penalized for losing a championship game. You made it to the championship. Now, did Penn State kind of backdoor its way in, kind of like Ohio State has done in the playoffs before? Yes. They didn't have the toughest schedule. They practically almost had a one-game season, which would have been Ohio State, and they had them Ohio State at home, lost that game. So I mean, we always say the game should matter. And it's not like Ohio State and Penn State played early in the season. That was the eighth game of the year we're talking about, week 9. So up in November. So I personally think Ohio State should be ahead of them. There's a very high chance that they won't, simply because of where Penn State was ranked beforehand and Ohio State is currently at the moment. Tennessee, they have some good wins, but I would argue that they are not as how do I want to say this? I don't think Tennessee is as good as Ohio State. I'll say that flat out right now. I really don't. I think that their wins are somewhat comparable. Um, do I think their wins are? Well, let's pull it up here. How about we do that real quick? Because I don't want to speak wrongly about their season here. But if I'm pretty positive that Ohio State's wins on the season have been better than Tennessee's. Now, between the two, Ohio State could have the worst loss with Michigan. I'm pretty sure. So here we go. So they beat Oklahoma 25-15. Of course, Oklahoma's not a good team. Lost to Arkansas. That's not a good loss. Is Arkansas better than Michigan? I don't know. I would venture to say no, but it's very close. They've had very similar seasons. They beat Alabama, big win at the top. Uh, Alabama, we're gonna see what happens here soon to see if Alabama is going to be in the playoffs. I believe they shouldn't. I believe that SMU should still be where they in it. I believe that SMU showed that they belong by coming back against Clemson. Now, even though this is an average Clemson team compared to the ones of past, I think I try to grade teams also based on the perception of them before the season. And before the season, I don't believe anyone thought that SMU was going to come to the ACC and be as good as they were. They've been awesome this year. They have been awesome. They beat pretty good teams, and they came up short against Clemson, but they didn't get blown out. They got down by a lot early, came back and showed some fight. And then you have the loss to Georgia, 31-17 at Georgia. Uh, so we're talking a top 5 loss, a loss to a average, mediocre Arkansas team. And then NC State, they're not what they were people thought they would be. I thought NC State would actually be pretty good this year also. So I was wrong with that. But I would say Ohio State has played better and they have a better resume than Tennessee. And that's just those are the teams I think we're probably going to see. I think we're going to see Tennessee. Again, that line is out already. I believe it was at 7. That might be a little high. I wouldn't think I would have it that high. I think that based on what Ohio State's offensive line currently looks like and the state of their offensive line, I think Tennessee would be well in the game because they have a really good defense, and the strength of their defense is their defensive line. Now, their offense has been up and down more so than Ohio State's has been, but yeah, I would take Ohio State in that. I really would. Let's see. What other teams do I believe that Ohio State should be ranked ahead of? And they're probably not going to be. I think Ohio State's going to be around 7 or 8. And it's understandable why they are just based off everything that's gone on this season. And I mean, losses do matter when they happen. Maybe it shouldn't sometimes, but I think that the only time it shouldn't is when you lose to a ranked team and it's a really good team. I mean, when I say ranked, they should be around where you are positioned. Whereas the Michigan game, they are not positioned anywhere near the top 25, anywhere near it. So that loss is a little bit different. Man. Let's see. Let's look at the resumes. I want to see this on ESPN. I think I'm gonna share this with you all so we can all get a good look at it. Also, I've never been the biggest resume guy. I think it doesn't really matter depending on when it's a close call, and sometimes if just how I did with the Tennessee game. I mean, Tennessee had 2 games on their schedule that when they beat those teams, they were ranked. They were. But the problem is that as the season goes on and we get more information and more data on these teams, and we see that they fall out of the ranking, we see who they lose to, we see how they're playing. I think it's impossible to even not impossible. I think it's an easy comparison for me when you show the Tennessee and Ohio State rankings. And I mean, I'm still surprised that the AP had Tennessee ranked over Ohio State. And again, I understand it's a loss to Michigan, but I feel as though, well, I'll ask you guys in the chat. Or everyone that's watching, I'll ask you: do you believe a loss to Michigan says more about the team than them having Ohio State's 2 top 10 wins? I talked. I didn't talk to, but I briefly commented on. Well, I've been talking to Sam from College Football with Sam. Great channel. Everyone should go check it out if you haven't already. And he believes that the game against Michigan, the loss, should carry more weight than those wins. I personally, and he gave good reasons for it. I mean, he had his own reasons. I thought they were pretty good, but I personally, it'd be one thing if you had 1 ranked win. I think difference is when you have 2 top 10 rankings. DZH3 here, he says no. DZH, what do you mean? Do you mean no towards the Michigan loss having more weight than the 2 wins, or vice versa? Yeah, what do you mean on that one? And again, everyone, after the rankings come out, I do plan on putting the call link in here. If anyone wants to come in and give their thoughts, would love to hear what you guys would think. I don't need to hear myself talk, of course. I really want to know what you guys have to say and everything that you is on your mind. Also, do that in the comments. Please ask any questions, put comments, any thoughts you may have in there also. Okay, so let's bring this up here on the resumes. And here we go. So if you look right here, um, so you have Oregon with the number one strength of record, Georgia number 2, Texas number 3, and so on and so on, as you can see. Now, if you look at FPI, now we're just going through Penn State, Tennessee, those specific teams. And I'm like, even I mean, if you want to bring up Notre Dame in this, I think you could also, but I, that loss to Northern Illinois, as bad as it is, and it's arguably it probably is the worst loss in the top 12. I think that since then they've done nothing but take belt to ass and been very, very good. They've been very, very good. And maybe I'm kind of like a simp for Notre Dame, but no, I think they've had an impressive season outside of that one loss. But here you have Penn State, strength of record 5, Ohio State 6, Tennessee 7, of course, as you see. In the FPI rankings, Penn State is ranked 9th, Tennessee 7th, Ohio State is 3rd. Strength of schedule, Ohio State 27th, Tennessee 30th, Nittany Lions 29. And then game control, I said Pitney. Penn State at 22, which is pretty far down. That's wow. That game control number is pretty that's surprising. There you see Georgia actually at 11, but 22 is pretty low. And Ohio State at 5, and Tennessee at 9. And these are all things that the playoff committee said they were using. Now, if that's the case, I don't see how you can have Tennessee or Penn State ahead of them, especially when Ohio State still has the win at Penn State, which is, people if you look back on it, Ohio State went down 10-0. Ohio State had not Ohio State, Will Howard specifically had the 2 turnovers, one going into the end zone. But outside of that 10 points, that game was in control. They didn't have one offensive touchdown in that game that Penn State didn't. So I think that I'm a little confused on that. DZH 3, we see, that miss, that Wolverine loss shouldn't bear weight. Okay, so yeah, I think compared to those 2 wins, it shouldn't. Should it bear weight? To an extent, it should, because we have to nitpick here when we're trying to rank these teams. And and let's be real here, there are teams that have multiple losses, but some of them don't have the losses that the loss that Ohio State has. And then also, it's a disgusting thing to say, but Ohio State's 1-point loss at Oregon. I mean, I know people don't like to use best loss, or I'm not really a fan of saying that, but I think that when you put all those together, Ohio State, they should be given more credit for the wins they have had, more so than that loss at the end of the season. Rivalry game, nonetheless, that was still a bad loss. So, a couple more things here I wanted to bring up. The Alabama conversation. I specifically with SMU. Now, I believe in the grand scheme of things, people they say teams are average within the top 25. There's 134 programs and teams playing this year here in the NCAA and in college football. I think if you're within the top 25, you are a good team. Now, is everyone on the same level as good? No, everyone has there's different rooms. Like they say in the Hall of Fame, everyone's in there, but there's certain rooms that guys are in. Alabama is an interesting case study to me right now, because I think that even though they would beat some of the teams like a Boise State. I believe they would beat Boise State. And I think they would handle Boise State pretty easily. But you still gotta win your games, man. You still gotta be deserving. And if you're not deserving, you don't deserve to be there. It's kind of like, if I hate to bring this up. If you bring up the game against Michigan last week, Ohio State, they, like, all in all, they didn't deserve to win that game. Not by damn sight. So yeah, I don't know if Alabama's deserving. And let's see here. Uh, a win against Wisconsin. That's at Wisconsin. I mean, I gotta give them some type of credit for that. Then the win against Georgia, 41-34. And if everyone remembers that game, Alabama was up 28-0 and then 35-7. And then Georgia started to come back. And I guess it all depends. Where do you give Alabama more credit for getting up that early and finishing the game, or do you downgrade them for even letting Georgia come back? Do you credit Georgia for coming back? I guess that's a really important conversation there with that. And then you also have the win versus South Carolina. That's a good win. That's a good one. I think if South Carolina didn't have the losses they had, they would be very dangerous in the playoff. I think they could play with anybody in that top 12, I believe. And of course, Oregon's in a different. I think Oregon's beatable, but right now they're 13-0. That's all that matters right now, and they're the Big Ten champ. Then you have that loss at Tennessee, 24-17. Still a good game, but you lost. A win against Missouri, 34-0. I guess that's impressive because beating Missouri 34-0 is impressive, but Missouri, I don't think much of them. You have the win versus LSU, cool. And then that loss to Oklahoma, 24-3. That's a bad loss. And just to add to that, again, of the 3 losses, 2 of them are to unranked teams. Or to unranked teams. Yeah, they're both on the road, but Vanderbilt, they've improved. That doesn't mean they're a really good team. Oklahoma, man, they can't score on anybody, but somehow they did that to you. So I think those are just 2 terrible losses. And so with that being said, and we talk about SMU, and I actually thought that while the conversation about them dropping out from where they were ranked because of losing that game, that was mind-boggling to me when you think about it. They beat Louisville, they beat Pitt. Boston College has improved this year. They win that, and they beat, and their only losses to BYU, who I think we can all say is a pretty good team. They're a pretty good, decent team. A bunch of grown men on that team, of course, but I think that loss, it's nowhere near as bad as that Oklahoma loss. Nowhere near. I think that you look at the Louisville win. I guess it all depends on where you see Louisville compared to a Vanderbilt. I would venture to say Louisville's better than them. I would also say Louisville's better than Oklahoma. Then you have the Clemson loss this past Saturday, 34-31, where SMU is down big early and comes back, and hey man, they lost on the last second field goal. They tie the game. Very clutch performance, by the way, but they tie the game, and then Penn State gets they move the ball, get that great play, and then boom, a great field goal kicker. And and every time I see these kickers making these long field goals, it makes me want to punch a wall. I just want to punch a wall because it's hard for me to just see all these kickers make these long 50-yard field goals. He hasn't attempted one this year, but he hasn't made one. And then the crazy part is I saw that his PFF score is around 79 fielding, and I saw that he's 2 for 4 between 30 and 39 yards. The problem is that like one of those was just what, two of those were just last week, or one of them. And so I mean, yeah, man, it's so here we go, man. So Oregon number one, Georgia number two. Have it here on my iPad. I don't usually use my TV here in my room that much, so I think that I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at Georgia being number two. I think that that's a fair placement for them. See, BBB Mirror says, "Does ESPN realize the Big Ten is this?" No. To answer your question simply, no. I think we all know that it's ESCCPN. That it's definitely an SEC channel, but I will hope that I think that not think that I would love to see Ohio State be whoever they play, whoever they play. I would love to see them be at night. That would on ESPN specifically. ESPN at night. I think that's a I think the horseshoe um in the wintertime is a great atmosphere to be. I think that it also shows and you know some people may not like it because of the product, you know, if it say if there's a lot of snow and but some people don't like it, but I do. All right, so Boise number three. Yeah, it I don't know, man. I don't know. I get why they are there because of the rules. Is that a team that deserves a bye? No. I it was the funny part about Boise State is their biggest win is a loss to Oregon, and I think that's yeah. What are you gonna do about it? Some of these things do need to be fixed by the committee. But there we go. Arizona State at 4. Mm, I think we saw that coming. I first off, shout out to Arizona State, man. I I think that for them to be picked last in their conference and then pop up and win the Big 12, man, that's nothing short of impressive. Nothing short of impressive. So yeah, there's a top four set. You have Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Boise State 3, and then at 4 you have the Sun Devils of Arizona State. Yeah, I think that's it's respectable, I guess. I mean, outside of Boise, I feel as though if you put Boise in these conferences, whether they be, I mean, maybe the big, I don't know, probably the Big 12 because Max. I mean, their quarterback for Boise State is not good. He's not good at all. So they went to the Big 12 and even the P4 conferences, SEC, Big 10, ACC. I think they come out there with like 3 losses. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, man? It is what it is. I don't think that like I said, I don't think Boise is deserving of it, but I get why they're there. Here we go. Clemson at 12, at 10 through yeah. In shout out to Dabble Sweeney. He's one of the most annoying coaches in college football, but a lot of people were off the wagon early in the season when they got beat up, and understandably so. And they had other losses between that time that you just couldn't explain. And so now, they win the ACC again. It's very impressive. They have Texas. Um, Texas is gonna blow their doors off. uh, the only way Clemson wins that game, the only way is if you gotta. They would literally have to play their best game of the season. They would, and I don't know if Texas will allow that to happen. At the same time, Clemson does play pretty good defense here late in the season, so we'll see. Penn State, the Nittany Lions at 6. And by the way, the winner of Texas Clemson will go on to play Arizona State. So that would actually be pretty cool to watch. I think I would pick Arizona State to beat Clemson today, but I think Texas would definitely take out Arizona State. So yeah, see who Penn State gets. I think it might be could be Indiana. It could be Indiana, and I think that would be a pretty cool matchup. But I'm really interested to see who they have here. And of course, the winner of this game, whoever Penn State has, will go on to play Boise State, who is a 3 seed. Notre Dame at 7. Who? I like how they're doing these rankings. I like how they're not just showing who they're playing right away out. Some of the cooler, the better seeds. Um, that's wow. So if Notre Dame's at 7, Penn State's at 6. Huh. Where does I want to know who's at 8? Oh, it has to be Ohio State. They have to have Ohio State at 8 right now. I would have to I have to think that Eddie Kane right here, Ryan Day for governor of Michigan. My goodness, dude, please don't. All right, yeah, Ohio State at 8, man. There we go. Yeah, like I said, do I believe they should be there? No, but I get why they are, just based on what the position before, and of course, whoever Ohio State has will go on to play Oregon. Of course, I would assume that most of us here are Buckeye fans, and I would love to play Oregon. I would love to play them again. Um, get another crack at them, you know. But before you even have that chance, you had to beat someone before you go there. It's be very interesting to see who Ohio State gets, and of course, Ohio State's going to be at home. I'm not sure if this changed yet, but I think if Ohio State had the 8 seed, then we would have a night game. That would be a night game, so that would be pretty cool. I'm very excited about that. Wish they stopped talking here. I just want to get on with these rankings and see what you guys have to say. Mm-mm-mm. Tennessee, boom. That all right, there we go. There we go, man. I'm so excited to see that. In my I've been watching Ohio State football since 99, 2000. Like basically I knew I could understand the game. Tennessee has always been one of my favorite programs. Outside of Scarlet and Gray, I've always had a lot of respect for that program. Love their colors. Think it's the best fight song in college football. Um, but it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens there, man. I think that's gonna be a test. That is going to be a test for our O line, man. A huge one. Um, I'm not off the rip. I'm not. I'm not sure if we would cover. Um, I think the game would be a very close call, very close call, and what it will come down to is if Ohio State's offensive line can't hold up, and also just the play calling and seeing if we don't do the same thing that we did against Michigan, where we're sitting there running tight sets, short routes, not spreading the field, not running to the outside. I think that's very important in whether we were successful or not against them. Man, that's a huge game. Indiana against Notre Dame, the battle for Indiana. These matchups are sick. These are good matchups. These are really good matchups. I Now my first thoughts on that. You gotta take Notre Dame. You gotta take Notre Dame. Um, they've got more Jimmys and Joes. Uh, I think that Curtis Wark and those guys can have some success, but Notre Dame secondary is very good. It's very good. Um, ah, man, I might drive down to go see that game. I actually might drive down and go see that game. I mean, I'm not far away from Notre Dame at all. Actually, that actually would probably be a really cool game to go watch. So, for anyone here, if anyone here right now, tell me what do you think? What do you think about the matchup against Tennessee for Ohio State? Where are you concerned? Where do you think the advantages are? Who do you think have to have a really big game? I mean the offensive line, of course, that goes without saying. But I think it'd be very. I think guys like Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles, Simon, Tennessee's very good at running the ball. I think those guys would have to definitely step up in a game like this. Oh man, they're dragging along this Penn State one, or whoever Penn State matches up with here at the 10 seed, not 10, yeah, the 10 seed. I'm sorry, not the 10 seed, the 11 seed. Hmm. Yeah, I really believe that these matchups they're elite. These are elite matchups. I'm really excited about this. SMU, thank God. Thank God. They grew some balls. The committee grew some balls, everybody. Look at that. They kept Alabama out. That's hilarious. Oh, that feels good. That feels good. I'm really happy that Bama isn't a part of this. They shouldn't be. Again, 2 losses to unranked teams. Uh, the most recent one, which is 2 weeks ago, you got Sam blasted by an average Oklahoma team. That's good to see. Good for SMU making this far. But, they showed their worth, and I thought in the game against Clemson, as I said earlier, they showed they belong. I think it's really hard to look at that game and not say they did. They are a very good team. I think that. Do I think they can beat Penn State? Yeah. Do I think they will? No. It's any given Saturday or whatever these games are, Friday, Thursday, however you want to put wherever they are. But I personally don't believe that they will be able to get that one out of there against Penn State and Happy Valley, which would be awesome. It's gonna be really cool to see SMU there. But I think that they are rightfully placed. They are rightfully ranked. Alabama, the opportunity for you to show that you belong in the playoff is throughout the season. It's throughout the season, and if you're unable to do that, then and you have all these chances, and you squander them, and it's not even like you're losing to these really good teams. You were losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. You can't do that. The Tennessee loss is understandable. It's forgivable, but what's not forgivable is not just one. Like the Vanderbilt loss, I thought was forgivable. That was forgivable because I think people saw the rise that Vanderbilt was having. But when you go and have a third loss to Oklahoma as in the fashion that they did, you can't justify it. And I'm sure ESPN and Disney made all the calls they had to make. I'm sure they said, "Hey guys, please look at Alabama. Don't just pick don't just put SMU in. We want the ratings, we want the viewers, we want all that BS." They said no. They said no. And so I'm very happy for SMU, and I'm even more so happy that Alabama's being left out of the playoffs. And it's crazy because the 12-team playoff is much harder to win than the 14 playoff, but it's easier to get into. And a program like Alabama they should be able to do it. And yes, they lost some guys, but they're still a very talented team. They have a really good coach, one of the best coaches in college football, easily one of the top 10. There's no reason why they shouldn't be here. But and do I believe they're one of the top best teams in America? Probably so. No, I do believe that. At the same time, you can't do what they did on the field. The games have to matter. And I'm happy that the committee showed that they did, and they went and put SMU in. Yeah, that's really cool to see. I'm really excited for them because you only get to. I think for my lifetime, unless we have older viewers here, I have never seen SMU be worth talking about. Not to this extent, at least. This is very impressive, very impressive from them. So let's give a quick look here at Tennessee and see what their players have looked like throughout the season, stat wise. Uh, again, you probably see a lot of things that are similar to Ohio State. They're not far off from looking like Ohio State, to be quite honest with you. Um, so let's bring this up here. So the Vols. So right here, you have Nico Amaliva. I hate saying his name; it's really hard. But 2,500 yards on the season, 65.7 completion percentage, not bad at all. 8.3 per. The bar is 7.3, I believe 7.5, so that's really good. 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, sacks 24 times this season. First year as a start throughout the season, that's not a bad season from him. 19 touchdowns. I don't think that's anything. Just it's not that. They did go through a period during the season where their offense looked lost. Like I won't say the offense, the passing game looked lost, and it has still throughout the end of the season. But I think that you give them some time here, they'll be just fine in the playoffs. Here Dylan Sampson, 256 carries, 1,485 yards, really good. 5.8 per, very good. 22 touchdowns on the season. He's been a dog. He's been a dog. He's been a workhorse for them, even when the pass game has gone astray. He's been there the whole time. Then you have Deshaun Bishop, 67 carries, 433 yards, 6.5 per, 3 touchdowns, very good. Nico, 311, 3.5 per. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, they can run the ball, man. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys over 100 yards so far this season. So that's very impressive. Get the receiving, Dante Thornton Jr. Uh, yeah, not a lot of receptions for these guys. 25 for him, 647. But my goodness, 25. This is called 26. 26 per catch. That's insane. That's insane. 6 touchdowns. I mean, what? So he's almost getting a touchdown every 5 catches almost. That's insane. Brew McCoy, very well known names. 35 receptions, 432, 12.3 per, 2 touchdowns. And then you have White at 33, 364, and 2 touchdowns. So the receivers haven't been doing much this season. It's been like more of a committee thing. Of course, Dante Thornton's had a pretty good season. I'll call it, I'll call it a pretty good season, man. Anytime you're averaging, you got 25 catches and average 26 carry or a touch, I'm not gonna, shoot that down at all. That's very impressive. Now the kicking game. So let's see. So extra points or whatever. But wow. So he's missed 6 field goals, 4 for 4 from 2029, 30 39, 8 for 9. That's very good. In comparison, fielding is 2 for 4. So it also shows that Tennessee is in the red zone. They're when they get close to the red zone or in the red zone, they're not going to score touchdowns. They kick a lot of field goals this season. But on the other hand, Ohio State doesn't have a clutch kicker. We don't have a kicker we even trust. So there's that. 40 to 49 yards. He's 4 for 6. That's very good. 50 plus 3 for 6. That's nothing to snuff at. It's not bad at all. Let's see, sack leaders. I think we all know who's gonna be up there. James Pierce Jr., man, 7.5 this season. James Pierce Jr. is gonna be man. Listen, when our defensive line, when our old line goes up against these guys, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be hard to watch based on what we've seen in this season, specifically from the game last week against Michigan. It's gonna be very tough because James Pierce Jr. is just like Stewart in a way. Lighter guy, bends, fast, quick twitch, all that. Yeah, it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough. James Pierce Jr. is really good. Yeah, 29 sacks in the season. So no, man. I mean, look, Tennessee's a really good team. They're a really good team. There's someone that we're definitely going to someone we definitely have to respect. Without question, we have to respect them. Oh man, so we got McLovin here. Okay, go. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly all I hear, buddy. Is blah blah blah. That's all I read. No, but you won, so I'm not gonna be mad at you for popping your shit. So yeah, man. Well, that's that, everyone. Uh, yeah, man. I'm very excited to see this. Uh, again, we have Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Boise State 3, and then goes to Arizona at 5, Texas, then Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State. They're at 8, and then the last 4, Tennessee, who Ohio State will be playing at 9, Indiana, SMU, and Clemson. Oh, we're finally here, man. We're finally here. Second half of the season, or not second half of the season, but end of the season here. And this is a whole nother season for everybody. I've a couple things I'm looking forward to seeing. Usually in the NFL, when teams get to the playoffs, the game slows down. I really want to see if that's the same here for college football. If the game will slow down, if it does, I think that is going to weigh a lot on some of these teams. I think if we're going to be one of those teams, if the game is slowed down, Ohio State can definitely take advantage of it. But we've seen them be so slow at times. We've seen them turn the ball over the most unopportune times. We've seen play calling so that's questionable at certain times when the game slows down. So we'll see. We'll see. I think I just want to know if the game slows down. Also, who's motivated? I would dare to say that everyone's motivated here in these playoffs because everyone knows now that they have a chance to go win the national championship. But and I'm not much of a who wants it more person. Everybody wants to when they want to win the game, especially in big games, rivalry games. Everybody wants to win. But what I'm really interested in seeing is that how do teams come off? Do they are they over? If you've lost your conference championship, are you over it? Are you over it? For teams like Ohio State, have you gotten past that loss in rivalry week? Are you past that? Are you ready to move on with your season? So yeah, man, it's gonna be really interesting to see. Um, I'm excited. Can't wait to talk about it with you all. We'll be back here on Monday, myself and Ryan Stano on the Ohio State Primetime on the Voice of College Football. If you want to see any of my other content, I'm also on the Scarlet and Blue Show with my co-host Bryce Sack. We talk Ohio State and Michigan football. Again, please like, share, subscribe, hit the like button here on the video so we get to the algorithm. And I appreciate you guys being here. OHIO.